Hey there. So I wanted to do another quick video on how to coil a rope. I see a lot of people doing this outside, and I see a lot of coils that aren't really that good. Even if they have the basic motion of coiling the rope down, usually tying it off is either a bit too loose, or it guarantees that the rope, or at least makes it more possible that the rope is going to be tangled while it's in storage, or when you bring it out and try to flake it out on the ground. So I'm going to show a couple tips that I've learned over my years of coiling ropes to try to help you guys with keeping your ropes nice and neat and organized while they're in the off season. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways how to coil a rope, and also a couple different ways how to tie one off. So the first one is going to be the standard coil, going over your shoulders like so. And then I'll show you a couple different ways how to tie off that coil. This is called the butterfly coil, by the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the rope right here with one of my hands, and the other, notice how the end is, it's facing in, the rope is going in towards the middle of both my hands. I'm going to pull through my hands, go over my neck, and you can either go full arm length if you have a bit of a longer rope, like a 60 or 70. This is only a 30 meter, so I'm just going to keep my arm bent at about 90 degrees, and then this is the key point. So I have the rest of the rope. This hand is holding the end of the rope. This is the rest of the rope. I use my thumbs, so I come in with my right thumb underneath my left thumb, and I pull the rope, see, and then I throw it over my head. And I have it about as long as the first length I had. See, and now with my other thumb, since the rope is in my right thumb now, come in underneath that thumb with the left thumb, pull the rope through, over the head. And you just keep on doing that the entire length of the rope. You know that you're doing it right when it all gathers neatly on your neck. Yeah, let me get through all 30 meters of the rope here. If your hands start to get full of rope, easy enough, just let your hands go. Find the end of the rope going to the ground that continues it. If you want them to be even, you can measure it out, and then just start over again. Alright, so once I got all my rope on my neck right now, I only have about this much rope left, probably about 5 feet or so. It's kind of better to have a little bit more than a little less. I take my hands out, I'm going to pull the rope off my neck, find just about the center of it. Yeah, right about there. I'll find the end of the rope, and then it doesn't really matter which side I start from, but I'm going to loop around the rope, see? And there does get a point where you're supposed to cross over for your next couple wraps, but I'm just going to keep on looping it around until I have a good amount through. Now to tie off the extra loop right here, you can either pass this through the center. Where are we at? There we go. Pass it through the center. Then you can take the end of the rope, pass it through that, and then that ties it off. Or one thing I like doing, especially when I'm storing my ropes for a long time, is I pass that end through, and then I just pull enough of it over, and then loop it over the top. And if I pull it tight, there we go. If you guys have seen other videos of mine, then you'll know that that setup right there. Man, that light's really annoying. Let's turn it more over this way. There you go. And you'll know that setup. That's pretty much, this is how I store my ropes when they're in long-term storage. Another way how you can tie off your coils, I have my same butterfly coils right here. Here's the rope going down to the ground right here. It's actually kind of long here. Let me, there goes, add another loop in. So there's my rope, same amount of rope as the previous coil. I'm going to do one loop right here. This one can be a bit smaller. And then, oops, sorry, this one can be a bit longer. Something about that big right there. And then a little loop right here. So you see 2 small loops. Then I'm going to bring the rope underneath. Sometimes you gotta get your teeth in there. And you see, that's the important part, is I'm pinching this one going down. So that way, again, it'll hold the rope in place. You can pull that one really tight. And then each loop, make sure that you're pulling those ones tight as well. Because you really want to keep your rope tight in the coil in order to get it to actually stay where it's at. When you have a small bit left over, you just simply pass it through that one of the loops you made, and then the other small loop, you pull it. Let's see if this is the right way. Yeah, awesome. Pull it tight. Pull this one tight. And there you have it. This is what we call a nail bite finish. And you'll actually see that this finish is pretty useful in a number of different circumstances. The main one used in this butterfly coil, you can put it over your backpack or over your head. Yeah, or I could just slip it onto my backpack and have it hang there while I approach or head down or whatever. So that's like the big advantage of this nail bite coil right here. Now let's talk about the butterfly coil. So this coil for me, it starts with both ends of the rope. And what I'm going to do is keep those even, and I'm going to flake the rope. Just run it through my hands right here. And flake it until I have the middle of the rope. And here we go, 15 meters later. So right here's the middle of the rope. Now what I'm going to do is my same butterfly coil, only with 2 strands instead of the 1. Here we go. This coil is really great if you're walking off of a climb. You just need to stash your rope while you're walking down the non-technical terrain. I do this all the time when I climb, like the Chief in Squamish, for example, and you climb all the way up, and then you're just following the hiking trail down, and you just need to stash your rope while you get back to the car. So after I looped it all over my neck, I have my butterfly coils and 2 strands going off, and I just tie them off the same way how I showed you at the start. 1, 2, 3 wraps. Usually good, 3 wraps will hold it together. Pass the ends through the middle. And then with this one, you can either do the going through or loop it over top. If you loop it over top, it does sit a bit higher on you, which is kind of nice if the rope is longer. It doesn't really matter what you do. And now you have 2 strands. So that way you throw it on your back, bring the strands down. You can cross them on your chest if you want. And you go cross them in the back, try to capture the rope in there if you can. Come back here. These ones are a little long, but what I can do is you would tie it off with a square knot. So if any of you guys remember your Boy Scouts, it's right over left and then left over right. If you have extra long tails like this, or a little bit shorter, you can always just wrap them around your gear loops or something. But if I had something as long as these are, I would just wrap it around, go to my back, then tie off that square knot. It is a bit more complicated. There we go. And other times it's off to the side or whatever, but just enough to keep all that out of your way so that way you can focus on getting off of the climb. So there's the backpack coil. Another way I like to coil rope, and this is sort of more specific to me, not many people do this, is I do the X coil. I don't know if it actually has a name, but this is a coil I'll do with thinner ropes. It does use less arms, so if your rope is wet or dirty, it's a bit nicer to use, as well as it doesn't fling dirt everywhere as much as the other ones can. And if your arms are really tired, this one kind of helps not use up as much energy. But I'm going to start like this with my, the rope in the same setup as before. I'm going to go over my neck, find my length I like. For this coil, usually I do like to have my arm bent at about 90 degrees. And this hand's going to be my anchor. This one's the one that's moving around. So I'm going to go in to this side of my hand, see, and then bring it to the left side of my neck, go back down, go into the same right side of my hand, go up, back to the right side of my neck. So you see, in, right side of the hand, left side, from the right side of the head, right side of the hand, right side. Yeah? And I just keep on doing that. Oop. I have the rope coiled off to the, or stacked off to the side. And I just keep on doing the same method. If, again, the rope gets to be a bit too much in my hand, which it will, you can just pass your hand all the way through, then start over at the same side. There we go. Now I'm down to my last little bit of rope. It may look like I have myself tied in a knot, but once you pull the sides apart, it just falls apart on its own, and you can tie it off again in whatever fashion you want to. So, some people, I think Mike Barter calls that the magic wow, but it's kind of a forgotten technique, but I think it's very useful. Make sure, while we're doing the coiling video, we might as well talk about flaking. So what I'm going to do is I have my rope off to the pile right there. I just uncoiled it and threw it on the ground. And now I'm going to run the rope through my hands. I'm starting at one end, just throwing it on the ground, and I'm just running the rope through my hands. If you haven't used your rope in a while, it could maybe you can maybe find some sort of issues with it, maybe a core shot you didn't see, maybe some weird something weird with the sheath of the rope that would be called to your attention, as well as you can sort of feel the rope, make sure that's even, no dead spots, no areas where it could indicate a core shot. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to keep on flaking this rope through my hands. I'm going to go through the entire rope. The pile of rope that's, oh yeah, you see right there. So that'll happen a lot with rope, which is why you do want to flake it before each use. To make sure that's, like, these small little tangles don't happen. And they're pretty simple, you see, you just shake the rope and they come out. Now this pile of rope that I'm putting right here, alright, here we go, now I'm at the other end. This pile of rope is known as a stack. So people say flake the rope, people will also say stack the rope, or you're stacking the rope. It's all the same deal. This is a clean stack, which means that this end of the rope will play off the top really nicely. So this is the top of the stack. If I grab the other end of the rope, that'd be coming out of the bottom of the stack. And they serve different things, and you may hear that terminology here and there, especially when you're both tying into each side of the rope. Like one person ties into the bottom of the stack, the other person ties into the top. Now, when you're stacking your rope, this is something that a lot of people may do. Sometimes it matters, other times it doesn't. But try to keep a nice, clean, small stack. You see how compact this thing is? And that is mainly because it's a 30-meter glacier rope. But even with your 60-meter sport climbing rope, you can still keep a nice, clean stack. And this will be very beneficial for you in all your climbing. You don't want to have your rope everywhere. And it makes everyone at the crag like you more because you're staying a little less spread out than before. Alright, so the last way to coil rope is, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about, is the Mountaineer's coil. If you were climbing in the 1800s, then this would be the most common coil you know. Some more old school guys, they'll do this coil too a lot. It's just another way to carry a rope, but it has a few more drawbacks than other ways of coiling your rope, but also one big advantage, and that is this is the most comfortable way to carry your rope. If you're in for a long approach, and your rope is not in your backpack, or if you're in for a long walk off, especially one where you're moving around a whole lot, it may be worth it to coil your rope in this manner. It does have a huge pitfall that I'll talk about at the end though, which you have to keep in mind. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start with the rope. Let's start with it like this. See how it's wrapped around my body? And I'm using the end of the rope right here. I'm going to measure out exactly about what sort of size I want it to be. And then I'm just going to go over myself. I haven't really done this coil a whole lot in the past recently. Yeah, it does take a little bit to sort of get your specific motion down. And you miss your elbow every now and again. Alright, here we go. So I'm pretty much at the end of the rope now. There it is. So I'm going to keep my hand where it's at, and I can pull this rope off. And I got the end in there, so what I'm going to do, yeah, you can see it, is I'm going to just shift down, shift it like a little bit to the side of the rope, because I don't want that end to get loose. And I'm going to find the small section that leads off to the end, and I'm going to do one more loop, just slipping around that. See how it's slightly smaller than the others? Now I'm going to do my standard nail bite finish. There's actually a couple different ways to do it. I sort of scrapped that big loop right there. There we go, and it can get disorientating. Also, it was nice not to have the longest tail for this thing. Any sort of standard nail bite finish you have, it's good to have like 6 or 7 loops, or 6 or 7 of these bars or so, but having less is fine, especially if you're just going a small distance. Having more is kind of a little annoying. Alright, now the trick is, I passed it through my loop. I gotta find where that loop went. No. Yeah, here we go. There you go, and then now you can see the loop strand is actually a little bit longer. I guess I need to practice this coiling method too. But that's essentially how I do it. Same nail bite finish. And now it does fit comfortably over my shoulders. I look like a real rock climber, I guess, you know. Having this thing makes me feel all manly. But it is the most comfortable way to carry a rope. And you can either throw a backpack under this, or, you know, again, throw your backpack on and then throw this over your shoulder. So the biggest fallback of undoing a Mountaineer's coil is actually paying, or like when you're ready to use the rope, flaking it out. So what I did is I undid my nail bite. This is all perfectly clean. And what you have to do is you have to actually peel each loop off of the rope. Yeah? If you just throw the entire circle of rope down and try to flake it out, it's going to become hopelessly tangled. And anyone who has made that mistake has had that burned into their memory of just throwing a big loop of rope down and then getting it all tangled up. Many ropes that come factory coiled, which is the same thing, they're all looped around in a circle. It's the same sort of deal. You have to actually, there are a couple extra steps in uncoiling a factory rope, but those of us who ever buy our first rope, you get it and it's in that big loop, you throw it on the ground, you start flaking it out, and then you untangle it for like half an hour afterwards because it just gets so messed up. And then as well as the rope is really kinked up too, and it takes a while to get those kinks out. So that is like, that's the big fallback of that setup, is if you take your rope off, hand it to someone, make sure they know how to undo it. Otherwise, you're sitting there waiting for up to a half an hour in order to get finally actually start climbing. So I figured while I was making this video about how to coil a rope, I would also talk a little bit about rope bags. And every rope bag, or like there are a couple different styles of rope bag out there, but they all sort of follow the same setup. This is a rope bag I just pulled out of the store here. This is by Black Diamond. This specific rope bag is actually really big. It's made for an 80-meter single rope, so you can fit an 80-meter rope in here. I actually use this bag to store my 2 7.8 mil twin ropes, and it fits it just nicely. But what I did is I grabbed a longer rope. This is a 60-meter rope, because I tend to use rope bags for sport climbing, most of all. And so the advantages of a rope bag are, one, you can keep your ropes in a nice pile as well as coiling them well, but you can help protect them a little bit more from UV exposure, from possibly some chemicals, or if it's you know, in a more damp environment, it wouldn't exactly help protect depending on the rope bag, but it can help just protect your ropes a little bit more. especially if they're in long storage. You know, my twin ropes are kind of more specialized ropes, so I don't use them every day of my life, and it's nice to have something to store them in. Another great part about rope bags is when you're single pitch cracking, you can just pick up the rope in the rope bag and bring it over to the next climb and throw it down, and then your rope stays nice and flaked. So a lot of people will coil the ropes and then put it in the rope bag, but there's kind of no need for that because the rope bag is made so that way your rope is ready to go the minute you pull it out, and you can set it up for that. So I'll show you what I mean. This rope bag has two corners, one with a red little loop right here. The other, if you can see it, has a green loop. You'll see that later. When I use it, I use the red for the bottom of the stack and the green for the top of the stack. Other rope bags, if your sides aren't labeled with like different colors, what you can do is when you tie the rope into the loop here, you tie in the bottom of the stack with an overhand knot, and then when you're at the top of the stack with the other loop, you tie that in with a figure eight, and I'll show you what I mean. But now that I have one end of my rope isolated, I can start just flaking my rope onto the bag. It doesn't really matter where I do it. If you take a little bit of care with how you flake your rope, then you don't have to flake it too often. There you go. It takes a bit longer to get through twice as much rope. But here we go. So I'm at the other end of the rope. What I'll do is I'll go over to my green loop and I pass the rope through, and then same as you would tie a normal figure eight knot, that's what I do. And now it's a figure eight tied in, so that way I know I'm going to climb with that end. Now, rope bags are always consisting of two parts. You have the main bag right back here, and then this is the skirt that comes out. Good way to pack it up is grab both corners with the rope, just fold them over, then start rolling it. You roll it right into your bag. Bags usually have like a buckle. I have a couple bags with like a buckle. This one has a little G hook. You hook in right here. These new bags are always a little stiff with the hooks. There we go. Pull that thing down. It also has a little cinch closure right here. And now I'm ready to go. So you can see that big bag actually does pack down really well. But that's essentially how the rope bags work. Rope bags also offer other advantages, such as it gives you that tarp, so that way you can actually set your climbing shoes on it without them getting really dirty. You can sit on it if you don't want to get really dirty. It helps if the ground is wet because it keeps your rope dry. Also protects your rope from a lot of dirt and abrasion, but dirt will get in this thing, I assure you, just like it gets in everything else, so every now and again you do want to shake it out. But other than that, that's how you operate a basic rope bag, and all you have to do is undo all this stuff, roll it out, and your rope is ready to go. Like, you are ready to tie in and start sending. So that's why rope bags are really nice. But obviously coiling rope is a very important skill to have, especially if you're planning on climbing anything other than single pitch stuff. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.